You're listening to a Benstown and McVeigh Media Podcast Network production. Run It Again is an inside look at the players, the coaches, and the business of sports with former NFL star and broadcaster Ron Pitts.
And 2 minutes later, I was back in the same Oklahoma drill that I got the concussion from.
And the mastermind behind the greatest show on turf, Coach Mike Martz.
And we want to force him into a vanilla defense and go to work.
Run It Again is a hard-hitting, no BS podcast that connects you directly to the source. This is Run It Again.
At wide receiver from North Carolina State, number 88, Torry Holt.
All right, Ron Pitts here, man. How you doing,
Hey,
man?
Ron.
Boy,
Good. How you
I
doing,
remember
brother?
those. I'm good. I remember those greatest show on turf days because I was doing the sideline for the Madden crew during that run, and it was magical. Listen, I do a podcast with a guy you may know, Mike Martz, and Coach Martz is always talking about you and Isaac and just things that made that whole system work. Talk to me about how important he was to your development as a receiver and that team offensively.
Well, Mike allowed us to play and use our strengths. He really did. And, you know, when I came in as a rookie, I didn't have to play Z, F, and H. I didn't have to learn everything, though I could play all those positions. But he said, hey, look, we're going to line you up at the X position because that's where we need for you to fit in this offense for it to really go. And Mike had the luxury of just creating incredible plays, winning plays for us every single week. It was so great. I had so much fun going into the meeting rooms on install day, which were Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays.
Wow.
Because when he presented the playbook to you, we knew that there was a lot of winning plays in that playbook. We just had to execute. And he entrusted us to do that. We had the skill sets, man. We allowed him to have the creativity, and he entrusted in us again to go out and play at a very, very fast pace. So Coach Martz, phenomenal coach and a very, very intricate role in my success as a wide receiver.
So, Mike, I know you talked about Isaac Bruce, and you talked about Marshall. Briefly, we've talked about Torry Holt, but give me your thoughts on Torry Holt as a player, as a person, time there. And
you don't have enough time. The thing with Torry is that when he walked in the room, it was instant energy. I think the whole team fed off of his energy.
Really,
you couldn't wear him out. He just I've never been around anybody in my whole life that had that kind of energy. He always had a smile on his face, and he was always checking out after we had a bad game or something. He would always check me out in front of the team to see how he would grade me to see my attitude, and how strong I was coming back. But we fed off his energy, and it kept us going a lot of times. And of course, he always made these big plays for us to win games, and we used to call him Big Play, and so that name kind of stuck for him. But he was an amazing player. No player ever has had 1,300 yards 6 years in a row. Not Jerry Rice, not anybody. So he's obviously needs to be and will be in the Hall of Fame, and he's a pretty phenomenal player and man.
Well, obviously his love for you is huge, and as evidenced there by that little piece. And they all have great things to say about you, Mike. And not every coach that's coached me, and I think I can speak for some other players as well. You don't always have that relationship with the coach. Sometimes it's kind of like the boss employee relationship.
Yeah.
You work for me, I work for you. We do business. And if we happen to be friends and have a relationship in the meantime, well, that's great. But it's not always like that.
Well, I think the thing that was different for us is I was in a position to help them, to be a facilitator, if you will. And I have to tell you, Ron, I'd been on a lot of staffs where we just ran plays, more or less. And so what we did is, there's connection with each one of those guys. And Torry was one of those guys where you feel like you kind of understand him a little bit, and you try to put him in a position where he can really excel. And they appreciate that. They do. They appreciate that. And I think the other guys even more than Torry, because Torry had never been any place but the Rams. And I know that Marshall used to tell Torry, you know, it's not like this everywhere else. You know?
Yeah,
It
right.
just isn't like this, you know, Torry. And I think he got that. He understood. But he, his personality is bigger than life. You know, it really is. And I've always appreciated that about him.
Yeah. Well, I got a chance to ask him that question there. He was on our show, a little show I do here in LA on Thursday nights. And of course, he was in town this past weekend for the Rams Tennessee Titan game because they were honoring Isaac Bruce. You know, Isaac Bruce was getting his Hall of Fame moment there at the stadium, and a lot of the guys came back, and I know Jackie Slater was there, and they brought in Torry, and they brought in so many guys, and I gotta tell you a quick story here. Another Mike Martz story. Jackie broke into it. I don't know how we got to you. We were talking about Torry, but somehow Jackie started talking about your installs. Now, how many years was Jackie on the team when you were around?
I was there at the end with him. He was there 20 years in the league. So
yeah,
I was with him in LA. Here's my favorite Jackie story. I'm walking to practice. Well, let me back up just a second.
Yeah.
We're getting ready for the season to start. 2 days from camp starting. So all the coaches are back in their office from summer. Chuck walks in my office and he says, I have to tell you, I always coach quarterbacks and receivers, and I was coaching the tight ends at the Rams at the time, which means I helped a little bit with the line, but not much. He said, Mike, line coach has throat cancer. You're coaching the offensive line in 2 days.
Was that Erkenbeck?
Yeah, Erkenbeck went down with throat cancer.
Yeah, so I remember that.
I had 2 days to get ready. So we're going to the first practice, and I got all my notes and I got everything going, and I, you know, what drills I'm going to do, and I'm nervous. You know, I'm walking down the street there to go to the practice here at Fullerton State, and Jackie walks up, and the big shadow comes up, you know, and he puts his arm down on my shoulder on me like this. He Jackie laughed. He goes, he says, "You're a little nervous, I bet, aren't you?" I said, "Jack, you have no idea how nervous I am." And then he said something to me that I never forgot, and I kept with me the rest of my life as a football coach. He said, if you can help me learn one thing today, I'm all yours."
Oh, that's powerful.
Oh, it was really powerful.
Oh, that's powerful.
And I don't know that he even realized, but then it just made everything about coaching in the NFL absolutely clear. Players in the league, and you can attest to this, their relationship with coaches is intimate if they really feel like that coach is trying to help them be a better player on a daily basis. Yep. Then that relationship completely changes. And they never blame you for anything, you know, they take all the hits, all that kind of stuff. So they get that, and they understand that, and they appreciate that.
Yeah, I remember Dad saying that. He said, the guys, they know if you don't know.
Oh, right away they know.
And if you don't know, they'll turn you off forever.
Well, and that's what's happened to so many teams in the league, that how can a team that has decent talent just not win? Well, because I was in those situations for years now in the league where guys, we just showed up and we coached and we played, and that was it.
Yeah, that's right.
If we won, great, you know, but you know, that wasn't a big deal.
Yeah. Now going back to Jackie's story about you, he broke into this story. We were on set, Mike, in between commercials, and he broke into this story about one of your installs and how you would start off with a blank board, basically, and just start writing things, and you'd ask this person's input on something, and then you'd ask another person's input, and he was amazed at how within, I don't know, hours, or maybe at the end of the day, the entire board around the room would be filled with you know, situational stuff, play calls, what you liked, what you didn't like, so on and so forth. And he really thought that was fantastic.
Well, you know, Jackie, we were together for so long. He knew me as a line coach, as a tight end coach, as a coordinator. I tried to hire him, you know, so we have such a long history, but I appreciate that. I really do.
Yeah, it was phenomenal to hear him say it. It's different. it seemed different coming from him. And you can say it all you want, but when the player says it, then you know it's real and it's ingrained. But anyway, so what a week. Like I said, if a couple weeks ago, Mike, was about last week was about the backup quarterback, then this week was about teams who lost their quote unquote superstar, but won big. For instance, let's start with the Denver Broncos. Dallas, and I think I texted you like 9,000 times during this game, but Dallas takes on Denver, and Denver with no Von Miller. And boy, they don't have a chance to do anything, and they go down and smack Dallas. And then Cleveland, they finally say goodbye to Odell Beckham. Baker Mayfield's shoulder's hurt. Oh my goodness, woe is them. What can they possibly do? I'll tell you what they can possibly do. They beat up on the Bengals 41-16. That's a theme for this weekend, I think.
Yeah, and of course the Rams, that whole thing out there with, like you say, Tennessee. But yeah, the thing with Dallas, right. So I think I do think that Denver had a great plan for him to begin with. They really did a nice job with it. I think ultimately the Achilles heel for Dallas is they just have never been able to stop the run for any length of time. Yeah. They've been good at times, but and they just were patient with running the football against them. But the big deal, Dak that's the worst I've ever seen Dak play. And he was, somebody had said that he hadn't practiced in 2 weeks. He actually just did some little things, but you can't do that and go out and play a game. You just can't. And he held the ball, which he's never done before. I chalked that off. I don't know that was a Cowboy loss as much as it was just a Dak Prescott just not really being ready to play.
Yeah, Dak on the day, 1939, 232, only one interception, but you're right, holding the, and then he was off target on a lot of little stuff, like just little swing routes, little out routes, missed on things.
Well, he missed a couple throws downfield too. That he doesn't.
He missed some big ones downfield. Yep.
He just doesn't miss. He just never misses, and he did. Yeah. And then when that happens, then everything looks like the team's bad, but it isn't.
Yeah. And then Denver, they took advantage of everything. They destroyed them in time of possession, 41 minutes to 18 minutes. I don't think you can win a game in this league with 18 minutes of time of possession without a bunch of turnovers.
A couple of things have got to happen. First of all, offensively, Dallas has got to go 3 and out. That's, obviously that's defensively, you got to get them off the field. Then the other thing is they just go about getting first downs, not worrying about scoring as much as moving the ball down the field methodically and just eating up clock. And then when you call play, you use the entire time. You know what I mean? And then just keep going down. Then if you get a field goal, great, or a touchdown at the end, whatever, and you play field position. And that's what you do to a team that scores a lot of points. You got to get them off the field and then gobble up the clock with the ball.
Yeah, Bridgewater was solid, not huge numbers, but he didn't have any turnovers. He had a big rating, and they ran the ball with the Williams kid, only 17 carries for Denver, but 111 yards rushing.
They did. They ran the ball. They got some key third downs, and they even ran it on third down. And but I thought Bridgewater, I just didn't know much about him, but I've been really impressed with him this year when I've seen him play. He's very, very protective of the ball. He makes good decisions. He's real quick with it. He really looks like a good player.
Yeah. The third game that involved not having a superstar, but yet that team looked even better was the Tennessee Ram game. And I could tell the Rams were in trouble from the first series. And now not the first series, the second series, because Stafford started double clutching, holding the ball.
So what had happened is they went back and looked at San Francisco a year ago and how they dominated the Rams. And they basically
twice.
Yes, they took a page off of their playbook. And what you do with the Rams, regardless of who the quarterback is you get up the field with your ends. You do not let them break contain on these bootlegs. Like most of their passing game is the quarterback's moving outside. And by doing that, it allows all those receivers to get depth and levels and all that stuff. And guys pop open for big plays. Well, they just refuse to let them do that. Yeah. And so he had to stay in the pocket. And they've never been, since the time he's been there, a real good team in pocket protections because they don't do a whole lot of it. So that they're not a real dynamic team in a 2-minute offense. It's just even in their 2-minute offense, they use the bootlegs and stuff. So They did that. They confined him to a pocket, and then they got after Stafford, and they got a push up inside, and then he just fell apart. He was horrible in that game.
Mike, I hate to say it, and this is going to sound bad, but this is what it looks like and feels like, and I'm still going to hold a ticket on this to see if it happens. Is Matthew Stafford a lion dressed in sheep's clothing, aka ram clothing?
No, I think that's who he is. I think he was that way when he went to the Lions, to be honest with you. I think he's got those bad plays in him. And,
Interesting.
I think he's got 2 real ugly plays in him a game. He's one of those guys. And the rest of the time he plays pretty good.
No matter what. You're saying
no matter
it could be
what.
the perfect
I don't
scenario.
Care what, Yes. I don't care what team he's on. But if you got a lead and you make a couple of bad plays, oh, well, we'll fix that. And that's kind of been what's happened. But he's capable of just absolutely, his judgment has never really been real good. And that may come somewhat from the, from Detroit as well. I don't know, but I just don't know that he's ever gotten rid of that. And I think he went into Detroit somewhat like that. But when you go like you, and I give you, you're absolutely clear on this, that great quarterbacks out of college with the potential of being great, they go to a bad team, they develop bad habits that sometimes they just can never let go. And that may very well be the situation there. And you're right.
Right. Yeah. The bad habit is I've got to win this. I've got to make the play. I've got to do this. Yeah.
Yes.
No, that's right. And it was a perfect storm for Tennessee. 2 interceptions, 1 pick six real early there. And they got on top. So the Rams were behind on the pitch count, which we said last year, Mike, they're not a team that plays well from behind. I'm not saying a lot of people do, but they're built to play 10 points up.
Yeah. So historically with them, at least in the last few years, if they get behind at halftime, that's never been an issue. They come back usually second half. But if they're behind in the fourth quarter, they're done. They cannot mount that 2-minute kind of surge. They're just not equipped to do it.
You could see it in Stafford's eyes, and I'm not going to pound the table anymore, even though I just did there, about the run game, because I think 2 things are glaringly missing from this team. The run game, Cam Akers, and they can do it with Henderson. They can do it with Sony as long as they're up in the score, and Aaron Donald and the rest of the boys are going crazy with the ears pinned back and wreaking havoc on the D-line. But that run game is going to be a problem. Next thing, I think they miss John Fossil in special teams. Remember when they had Fossil, they were pulling out trick plays. They were doing all kind of stuff. That's missing. I can't remember the last time they made a big play on special teams.
Yeah, I think you're right. But Fossil's a pretty special guy.
Yeah.
I think defensively, they've underachieved. They've got all these weapons on defense.
You're right, Mike.
And
that's Raheem Morris. Yeah.
They sit in a defense and play base defense. The old Lovie Smith thing. We're just gonna execute the defense, and all that stuff. And nobody's good enough to do that. Nobody in the history of football is good enough to stay in a defense without just getting, jolted. I don't care who you are. They were so creative a year ago with that talent. They're moving around and they're changing things and making it difficult. And they're not doing that.
Yeah. Okay. So run game, special teams, and then the third issue for the Rams, penalties. They had 12 penalties. Now, this started a couple games ago. I can't remember who they played. They had 7. I want to say it was the Giants back there in a game they won. But the penalty count has been going up this season. And that worries me because I don't remember that being an issue before.
I tell you what's an issue for them is the offensive line and holding penalties because they're just not very good at it.
Yeah.
And they're not on the edges and in 2-minute stuff and you're trying to throw the ball, you're playing with open edges and that's just not what they do. And now you have a tackle hanging out there by himself and they're not used to that. They're used to the play action for help or tight end bumping his way out and that kind of thing. So
Yeah. I know Jackie Slater is always talking about the guard and center combination with Allen and Corbett. Corbett was struggling. That kid, Jeffrey Simmons, had 3 sacks, I think, in the second quarter, by the second quarter.
So what they did there, we get that push up inside into Stafford's face.
Yep.
But he couldn't bail because what you do with those ends, Ron, what we used to do is just contain it. You don't need to sack him. Just contain and squeeze the pocket.
Kind of like you would do back in the day with a guy like Michael Vick.
Yes.
Any quarterback that could run.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that a mush rush? Is that what they call mush rush?
Yeah.
Something.
And you want to make sure you don't get up past him.
Right.
In other words, when you get vertical, but don't get past the quarterback and then squeeze to the quarterback. Yeah.
Oh boy. Okay. So anyway, Rams now 7-2. They got a fight on their hands now, and they've got San Francisco coming up. But San Francisco beat them twice last year, but it's not the same San Francisco team. That's
not anywhere near the same.
No. So the other team that again lost a star guy, and we'll get into this a little bit. Cleveland beat up on Cincinnati. Cincinnati. What did you say? When a team has a bad loss, you don't want to lose twice to that team by having the hangover the next week. So Cincinnati lost to the Jets in New York 2 weeks ago. That was Mike White's coming out party. And now they just lost again to Cleveland. So is the hangover still bothering them, or is it something deeper?
No, I think that's exactly what happens to teams. You know, the Jets are so bad. To get beat by the Jets when you are playing as well as they were playing, that's hard. That's a hard one to get over. But as a coach, you got to make them get over it. And that's your attitude. You can go in and beat a team down about that loss, but you can't. You know, when we suffered a really bad loss, and we had a few, a lot of times they just wouldn't look at the tape. They just throw it away. So that's not us. Don't pay attention to that game. It's over with. Let's move on. We got to move forward. Mm-hmm. If it was just something that wasn't like us, there, you know, we get whatever it was, but you got to get past it. You can't let them think about that, because the papers are not going to, you know, the media and the social, that whole thing's not going to let you forget about it, but you have to.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And the Jets, they went and turned back into a pumpkin against Indianapolis. Indianapolis starting to roll a little bit. Seems like the quarterback Wentz is getting his sea legs again, I guess.
Yeah, he still has, you know, he's a little bit like Stafford in that regard, where he still has that stupid play.
Yeah.
You just can't get rid of it every game. And that's the difference between just being a good quarterback and being a great one. You know, great ones just don't make dumb mistakes.
Vince Ferragamo brought up a great point this past week when we were doing the show. He said, Wentz is so used to getting hit. And I saw this on film. He was in the pocket, and, you know, when that back picks up a dog and linebacker, blitz and linebacker, that's like a car crash in there. Yeah. For the quarterback. That's what quarterbacks have told me. And the back stepped up, picked it up, and it's a big explosion and pop. And Wentz went like that, like he was looking for a place to fall. And then he realized, oh wait, he didn't get there. I'm okay. And then he reloaded and tried to. And I saw that a couple times.
See, that's trust, though. You know, we have a number of quarterbacks standing there where the linebacker looks like he's coming free, but you know the back's got him. And you just have to trust the fact that back's going to pick him off. Yeah. So you have to stay in there and realize, and it's the hardest thing in the world to do. Yeah. There's this train coming right down the middle at you. You're trying to keep your eyes down the field, and he's three feet away, and he's blowing snot bubbles out of his nose, and here he's coming at you, and all of a sudden that back just goes boom and takes him out. And you have to expect that's going to happen.
That's funny. Warren Moon told me, I said, what is it really like standing there with all of that crap going on? He said, man, it's like being in an intersection with 4 car crashes happening simultaneously.
That's a great analogy.
You're right in the middle of the intersection. You're in the middle of the intersection. You always see glass and debris right there, but yeah.
So when I was at the Rams, Ron, we had a young receiver come to our team that was trying to make our team, and he wasn't running routes fast at full speed all the time.
How's a problem for you?
Yeah. So I said, here's what we're going to do. You're going to stand back at the quarterback position. We're going to call play. I had the quarterback call play, go up there. And I said, this is live, boys. This is live. I hand him the football 5 yards back behind there. I said, all right. And I had the quarterback stand inside and call a cadence. And I said, all right, now you stand back here and you try and throw the football to one of the guys that run down the field. You know the play. So I did. And he came back, and you almost screamed. His eyes are about that big. And said, I had no idea. I said, no, of course you don't have any idea. That's why you have to play this game from a quarterback's perspective. Yeah. These guys are courageous.
Mike, I always wonder. And you see Tom Brady for all those years stand there.
Unbelievable.
All that flack coming out. You said it, though. It's trust.
You
He's got to
trust
have
him.
trust
Yes.
somewhere.
But, here's the other thing, too. We were all in love with Patrick Mahomes here 2 years ago, myself included.
Yeah.
And last year, too. And then he's just having this bad year this year. And we're paying him all this money, and rightfully so, and but just go back and appreciate Tom Brady never had that.
Yeah.
He never did that. He did this all these years without. Now he got injured and they fell off, but never did he trip or have that bad year or start off on his own and passing over receivers that are open, those kinds of things. He never did that.
Is
no
that
matter how bad things got?
Is that Belichick or is that him?
No, that's Belichick. That's no question.
That's
what they're doing up there now with the quarterback, right?
Yeah.
That's what. I mean, he's going through that right now, right? I mean, he's developing this guy into the prototypical winner like Tom was.
Yeah.
And then once Tom has that, and that's his personality anyway.
Yeah.
Then they play to a certain level in expectation every single week, and the details and the intensity and the winning and I mean, you just do it. You never blink. You don't blink.
You don't blink. And that right there, folks, is the difference between winners and losers in the NFL. The difference between guys who are just happy to be drafted in the NFL and enjoy all the stuff off the field that the NFL brings you and running out underneath the goalpost every day. And then the guy, like Brady once said, I don't feel appreciated in this organization, because that's the way the organization is set up. The organization is set up to win. It's not set up to stroke
Appreciate
your ego.
Somebody. That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's something that people have to understand, and it's not easy to understand.
Well, and you know what though, but that's a good thing.
It's a great thing. Yeah.
It's a great, because like Patrick Mahomes, when you're constantly stroking this guy and telling him he's the greatest thing ever to play the game, and he takes his eye off the prize too. He becomes a different player. He starts going off on his own a little bit. But in the structured, intense environment that Brady went through all those years, that doesn't happen.
No. And well, let me switch gears here because I want to keep us moving. I think a guy that's taken his eye off the prize a little bit, and I want to be careful here because there's been elite athletic-wise, elite players that have struggled early on in their career to get in the right situation, get the right team, on the right team, right coach, right quarterback, all that stuff. Now I'm talking about Odell Beckham here. So now obviously Odell Beckham has left the Browns. So that's two teams. So my first question is, he's not the first guy to do this type of thing. I know T.O. went through this. Okay. He bounced around for a while and finally got to Philly, and they did go to the Super Bowl and lost it, but he found a home eventually, I think. And Antonio Brown went through this, wasn't happy. Pittsburgh, for whatever reason, went to the Raiders, had a big blow up there with the general manager and the head coach. Then he ends up in Tampa Bay, and he finds the promised land. He goes to the Super Bowl and wins it. Where is Odell at right now mentally, Mike? And is he done?
I don't know where he is mentally. He has to go through an attitude readjustment.
Serious attitude.
This whole thing isn't about him. It's a team game, and you do your part. And sometimes you're really involved, sometimes you're not involved as much as you'd like. But that kind of unselfishness is something that has to be learned or ingrained in somebody. And without it, it's not worth it. It's not worth picking him up. It just isn't.
Well, he's ready.
I'd rather play with somebody with much less talent that will play hard and compete and do all those things and do it the way you want him to do it than have to deal with that.
He's radioactive right now. So,
well, he is. I feel bad for him because he still has a lot of gas in the tank, and he's a really good, really talented. But if he could ever have, I guess, for lack of a better term, come to Jesus and understand, what his role really is on a team, and I think people would appreciate him. I think somebody out there will pick him up, or I think he'll end up playing for somebody. But, the thing that when you go to if you went to a really good team that's established, like let's just say New England picked him up, that stuff doesn't fly up there.
I was going to say that
his
problem would get solved real fast,
real quick.
Yeah.
And, and Bill wouldn't have to say anything. If this kid came to the Rams when I was there, that stuff would have gotten straightened out in the locker room.
Yeah.
And
yeah. And they, other guys have gone through it. Like I said, T.O. went through it. Randy Moss went through it for a little bit. Chad Johnson went through it and never came out of the other end. So it can be a career.
So who are they in? How many of those guys have won Super Bowls?
Exactly. No, exactly.
And then just talk about their number of catches, how many yards they had.
Well, that's it. That's the thing, Mike. What I'm noticing is that the guys that win are different than the guys who post big numbers and it's about them. And it's funny. I used to talk to my boys about this, back when Odell first came in the league, and they would run up to me and show me the social media picture, the Instagram picture of the great one-handed catch in training camp. And it's funny because the culture they're in, the generation they're in, they think that's amazing. They think that's great. That's everything. That's as good as winning the Super Bowl. When you can post amazing pictures, you won the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Right. And I kept telling them, so guys, none of that stuff matters. Oh, well, it does. Look how many followers he has. Followers? This man, he can't even stay on a team right now. Sure, he's got the athletic ability. There's been tons of guys that come through the NFL with all that ability and all that promise and all that what they call it, potential. Yeah. That's the worst word in the NFL, potential. Because if you can't build on that, it's zero.
At the core of any champion in a team sport, at the very core is unselfishness.
Got it.
And we had a term we used to use: give of yourself completely, ask nothing in return, and excellence will be yours. And excellence is what we pursued. It's just that simple. Just that simple.
I don't know where he's going to end up, Mike. And again, if you had a problem in New York, you had a problem in Cleveland, and in Cleveland you had a Heisman Trophy winner at quarterback. At what point is it you? At what point do you got to look at yourself and figure it out? But I hope he does. He's fun to watch and all that, but there's a difference between guys that are fun to watch and guys that win Super Bowls.
What he doesn't realize is there's a lot of great receivers in the league today.
Yeah.
He's just one of a lot of them right now. And in terms of talent, but those guys are team players and they're winning, and a lot of them are going to have rings eventually. So there's a big difference. I just, guys like him with great talent, but don't get it, they come and go all the time, Ron.
Come and go all the time. How many guys have you seen in camps, Mike, that were like that?
My
gosh.
We've over the years, we've got hundreds of guys I know could have made it.
Hundreds, literally hundreds.
Talented guys. Either they just didn't believe they were good enough, or they had his attitude. Just it's a million, but very seldom is it based on talent. The guy just wasn't good enough.
That's right. That's what people don't realize. Making it in the NFL isn't as much about talent as you want to think it is.
They're all talented. Everybody's got talent. It's how well you compete, your mental toughness, all those things.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember we had a running back in Buffalo. This guy actually looked like a little Walter Payton. I mean, he was performing like one too. No one could catch him. No one could tackle him. It was amazing. But the guy had one problem. He couldn't shut up. The guy talked nonstop from the time he got on the field, off the field, in the huddle, in meetings, in the training room, on the bus to the game, on the bus back. He never shut up. And I remember my dad saying to me, he said, I like this, but he won't shut up. And then he says something stupid every now. We can't keep him.
Yeah.
He distracts my whole meeting. He won't shut up. I guess Dad had to throw an eraser at him or something because he wouldn't shut up in the meeting.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah. Fortunately, as a head coach, I was involved in the offensive meeting, so I had a couple of guys a little bit like that. We just cut them on the spot. in the meeting.
Yeah.
Go pick up your stuff. You're done.
Had to.
Yeah.
All right. Let's whip through these other games here. What other game jumped out at you during the week?
Well, it's good to see San Diego come back and get better. You know,
Yeah.
to see
Chargers,
them
LA
like that.
Chargers.
Yeah. San Diego. I'm going to call them San Diego.
I know.
No
That's
apologies for it.
That's
no
a new
apologies.
thing. I heard someone else say that too. Someone on one of the shows said, "No, I know who they are. I know where they're at, but I'm still calling them San Diego." Okay.
Hey,
by the way,
yeah,
are they for sale?
I don't know. I really don't know. I know the league. I know most of the owners are just kind of visiting with some of them that they wish that they'd never left San Diego and they'd like to have them come back to San Diego. Yeah. And then the thing with St. Louis is, as reparations, you never know. St. Louis may get a team, you know, a new team, and then in the process they'd have to get another one. So maybe San Diego gets one. Well,
say that again now. And I know what you're talking about. You're talking about the current lawsuit that's going up against.
Oh, it's a lot of money now.
And they'll win St. Louis and Stan Kroenke. And
St. Louis is going to win that lawsuit. They're going to win it, and it's a lot of money. And I think maybe in that deal, maybe they negotiate a deal where they can get another franchise there, and the league would like to expand anyway. But
oh boy, that's interesting. So, but now they would have to do a unilateral expansion, meaning if you're at 32 now, you got to go to 34. So
or 32 or 32, yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, they're at 32. So if they expand
34, yeah, excuse me.
Yeah. It'd have to go to 34. You can't be 33. You can't do 33. It'd screw up the schedule. And for our listeners that don't know what that is the Rams, Stan Kroenke owner. That's a suit involving the team allegedly violating their own relocation laws and rules, the league's relocation laws and rules. So,
well, they had, I guess they'd had some agreements with St. Louis that they broke, and it's very clear, and they're not going to get out of that. So the city of St. Louis will win this, and I think it's for quite a bit of money.
Yeah. And then, of course, at the owners meeting a couple of weeks ago, there was a big brouhaha where they asked Stan Kroenke, the Rams owner, to leave the room while the other owners supposedly complained about taking on that financial burden to support this suit. So there's a lot going on.
I think that they were upset with Stan Kroenke because he was going to absorb that, but now he's saying, I don't think so. Maybe they're illegal. Maybe you guys can share this hit with me, and they don't want anything to do with that. So,
well, Mike, that's news for me. I didn't realize that there was even a chance that the St. Louis city could get another team back. That's interesting.
Well, I shouldn't have laid out there, but I've read a number of things that have come up as a potential to lighten the cost of the litigation and all that stuff, that maybe they get a franchise and lower, what they're asking for and damages and all that sort of thing.
Yeah. All right. The Monday night game, Pittsburgh and Chicago. I think both teams are struggling with a lot of different things. Pittsburgh just had the energy of being at home and all of that, but that game, I felt like that game was going to end up kind of like it did because Pittsburgh couldn't break away score-wise.
That's the best offensively that Chicago's played this year.
I believe that.
And he looked like a number one draft pick in that game. In the past, he didn't. When you give a quarterback the play, you ask any quarterback, when you give them the play, the first thing that they do is there's a slight pause and they visualize the play, then they call it. Every quarterback does that. As a rookie, you get the play and you can't visualize it. That's why you get stuck and you start bailing and running. And that's where he was. Now he can visualize the play as he call it. And now he's staying in the pocket and making these throws where he wasn't doing that before. He's come along. He's gotten better every week that he's played. I think by the end of the year, I think everybody will be really pleased with him. They've got good receivers. Montgomery, the running back, is back. Defensively, they were missing a whole host of defenders now. The three guys up front were out, and they hung in there, and I felt bad for them because they came back and won it at the end, and then of course, Big Ben took them down at the very end there with seconds to go and kicked the field goal.
Yeah, they kept calling neutral zone infractions on Quinn
94
for Chicago.
Yeah.
And it happened. Maybe it happened 3 times. I know for sure 2 on the same drive. And that's interesting. That's weird to me that didn't get corrected or it wasn't right.
He lined up like that the entire game.
Yeah.
He never not lied. There's a lot of things that got called in that game that I've never seen get called.
Well, the Cassius Marsh taunting toward the end of the game.
Well,
weird.
And people that don't know, he was with Pittsburgh and they cut him and he ended up at the Bears.
Yeah, that's right.
He was looking at the sideline saying, hey, see what you passed up. Kind of
guys do it all the time. Look at Jalen Ramsey. Jalen Ramsey does all kind of stuff.
All the time. And but he didn't say anything. And so he walked back, and then the official, and you look at it on tape, he
bumped him
and bumps him.
The official bumped him. That was Tony Corrente. Yeah, he bumped him. That was weird.
That was an official should never be the reason why you win or lose a game, but there's no question.
Question. There were way too many. And I'm going to get on this soapbox here because I'm tired of seeing it. The officials are too involved in the game, meaning, okay, if there's a penalty, got it. But the first 2 plays of a game, I shouldn't see a penalty. I mean, it's becoming more of the norm now. Lots of penalties, lots of game stoppage for penalties.
Well, I can, if they had 20 penalties, so be it, if they're penalties, but what's called for this team should be the same for that team. So if one team holds in a certain way, then it should be a penalty for that team over there. And that's just not happening.
Yeah. Like strike zones in baseball.
Yeah, exactly. It's exactly a great analogy. It's exactly right. So there's a total lack of consistency. When I was on the competition committee, that's the only thing I told him, just take Mike Pereira. There's got to be a summer camp for you guys or something, because there's just no consistency between crews and what's being called and what isn't being called.
Boy.
But I felt bad for the Bears because there were a number of things that happened to them that they were penalized for, and I just, I just didn't see it.
Well, 12 penalties against Chicago. Okay, so that's what the Rams were going up against. Yeah, 12 penalties. You can't survive that. And Pittsburgh had Pittsburgh had 5.
Yeah.
That's a gross difference between. Yeah. I don't think the Steelers were that much better penalty wise than the Bears.
So and that's my point, I guess. But I was fine with everything, thinking, well, I don't know why they called that. I was still questioning my mind. That shouldn't have been called. But when they called Marsh, and he was walking by the official, and he checks him as he walks by. I thought, whoa, they need to get rid of this guy now. Tony Crane needs to get out of the league.
No, right. No, I was just going to say that the NFLPA, the Players Association, they need to investigate that, because I've never seen that. I've never seen an official
do something like that.
Yeah, and it's almost like, what did something go on earlier in the game that he wanted to get back at him for? Which no one will ever admit any of that, but I've never seen that kind of body language before.
No, and there were just a number of those things that happened, and he was primarily the guy throwing all the flags.
Yeah, and that was big, because now, I mean, that was 15 yards, and I think they were about to punt the ball.
They're punting the ball. They stopped.
So they got the ball. They stopped and got the ball, and then they got a field goal off of that, and that was essentially the game.
Difference in the game. And Marsh came through, and it was a big sack, and now it was a 4th down. They got him off the field, so now it gives them an automatic first down. That's my point, when an official should never, ever be the deciding factor in the game, and he was.
Yeah, you're right. And poor Cassius Marsh, he comes to the sideline, and I don't know. Coaches are going to react. People are going to react until they really know what is happening. But one of his coaches just ripped him before he even got to the sideline, and I knew what was happening, because he thought that Marsh did something overtly stupid.
He never saw it. So that same coach came over at the end
and apologized.
To him.
I saw that.
Yeah.
I saw that.
Because he didn't know what happened. Then he looked up at the board and he saw he didn't do anything. Oh. And that whole sideline was irate with Corrente for that. And I'll be curious this week to see what happens Maybe he didn't like the tattoos on his arms and stuff. I don't know.
You say, man, oh man. Well,
My boy's got some tattoos that he's
oddly
got
enough, well, he does. Now, oddly enough, he's a UCLA kid, and
that explains a lot.
Thank you. And he went to high school right over here where my sons went, Oaks Christian.
Yeah.
So I've known the kid, or my family's known the kid, and the boys have known the kid for quite some time. Call him kid. Shoot, we get my age, everybody's a kid. So, but that was sad to see. That was really sad, because that turned into a really good game. And I agree with you, Mike. I think Justin Fields may have gone from rookie to vet in that game. That's what it kind of felt
This
like.
was the turning point in his career, in my mind.
Yeah.
And the other thing that's helped him is the head coach has gotten out of the hair of the offensive coordinator and let him call the game.
Yeah.
Before, he was always involved in meddling, and then he was going to call it. No, you call it. No, I'm going to call it. No, you call it, back and forth. But in the last 2 weeks, he told Bill, go ahead and call it. And so Bill's done a good job with it.
Bill Laser.
Bill Laser,
Yeah, he let him call it. Since we're on this game here, what needs to change in Pittsburgh?
Quarterback. He needs to go. He's done.
I like Ben. I like everything.
He's had a great career,
but
had the key there is he's done.
Yeah.
He's done.
Yeah. And I saw the Claypool guy went out. He went out of the game late.
I saw that too.
He got hit, bopped his head, and then the next thing I know, he's got all his tape off his arms. And so I was like, whoa. And that was a big miss. I don't know that they have what they used to have on the perimeter. And if you've got a quarterback that can't move anymore, I'd probably blitz the living heck out of him.
And that was the other thing I didn't understand about the Bears. They were just in a generic front. The only time they brought Marshall, they got a big sack. So, their offensive line is not very good at Pittsburgh. They're not very good. And they got a rookie right guard who couldn't figure out how to get out of the huddle. To me, you cover him and go after him with games, or you bring backers, and Big Ben, he can't get out of his way. He can't. Now, when you get there, I was playing popcorn football as a linebacker, and I blitzed, and I got the quarterback. I got him around the legs, and I was, like this, and he looked down at me like this, and he'd already thrown the ball. That's Big Ben. They get there, they hit him. He just kept looking. So, you can't get him down.
Mike, I'm glad you remember that.
Yeah, I do.
Those are
one of my more. That tells you what kind of athlete I was. 99-pound linebacker flying through there, hitting the quarterback in the legs. I got a sack. I can't get him down. He just can't get away from me.
Wait a minute. Now, depending on what level you're at, 99 pounds, it might have been pretty big. You might have been.
Was junior Bantam, I think, or midget, something like that. Yeah, midget. I think it was midget. Yeah.
That's funny. Oh man.
Yeah, the Kearney Mason Mules.
Oh gosh, the Kearney Mason Mules, huh?
Yeah, San Diego.
Wow, down in San Diego, man.
I bite him in the heart.
Oh boy. Well, the Giants got a win. Unfortunately for Las Vegas Raiders, they're still, I'm sure, trying to get over the Henry Ruggs deal. It's just another incident that just rips the team internally.
Well, it does.
They got to try to fight off.
And that poor woman that was killed, and then Ruggs, his whole life is done, and and how that just devastates that team. Just the timing of everything, and winning football games doesn't seem to be very important when that happens.
Any idea, Mike, who's going to go in there as a head coach? And there's going to be some other openings around the league, and we'll get to those later. But since we're on this, what are your early thoughts on that?
Well, I think they can have their pick of any, because they're really a good football team. There'll be a lot of outstanding guys wanting to go there. I think the assistant that's there now, and I can't recall his name, if he does a remarkable job and gets them into the playoffs, come down the stretch, he'll have an opportunity.
Bisaccia?
Yeah, he'll have an opportunity. So they tried the big name guy, didn't work out. So, go with the guy that's getting you in the end zone and winning games. And if he can continue to win, I think this week was a mulligan for him. I think they'll get back on track here.
Yeah, and they seem to do that. It's just they've always got something that happens. And oh man, it's been a rough rough first year there, second year there in Vegas. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's been difficult for him
Man.
with all the things that have happened.
Yeah.
But in those circumstances, like New Orleans with the hurricane and all the relocation that they went through that year, they won the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
You never know.
Yeah. Mike, it made me, and I hesitate to even bring this up. It made me immediately think of the Leonard Little situation down in St. Louis. Leonard Little,
the Leonard Little situation was very similar. Leonard Little was a defensive end for us from Tennessee. He was an outside linebacker, basically. And he was a guy who never drank. And this is a year before I got there. So this has been 98.
Mm-hmm.
And it was his birthday the night of a game. So he'd gone home and some of his friends had said, "Hey, listen, come on down. We want to celebrate your birthday." "Yeah, I'm home." No, they talked. So he goes. He's never had anything to drink and he gets drunk. He's never been drunk. He gets in the car downtown, kills a woman. And he's got to live with that the rest of his life. So another incident came up with him where he was allegedly driving or speeding and being drunk. And that came up, and I was at that. That was in 05. I was at the trial for that every day because he was not guilty of this. This police officer, whoever it was, had 10 times the tickets of anybody. He knew who he was. He looked at the vehicle with all the stuff, player vehicle or whatever, and he pulled him over and the breathalyzer and all that stuff. He just wasn't drunk. He didn't drink. In fact, he had been at a function downtown with a bunch of off-duty police officers that he knew.
Wow. Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously, but the fact that he got stopped again, hit the papers, and, they just assumed he was guilty. And so he had to fight that off. And it was really hard for him.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we got a few minutes here. Let's talk about the Aaron Rodgers thing. I hate to, I don't even like discussing the whole political part of it. I don't care what side anyone's on as far as that's concerned with this thing here. But you just give me your thoughts on it and how, if you think the Packers will be affected by this once he comes back.
No. I don't care whether he's vaccinated or not. I don't care whether he said he was vaccinated or didn't. I could care less. I could care less. If what he said to him in his mind was accurate, I know Tony Bradshaw is ridiculing him, but that's a good thing. If you get ridiculed by Terry Bradshaw, that means you got character. So I think that whatever reason he said what he said, who cares? And that's his decision. And if there was some sort of rule broken within the league because of that, then fix it and move on. But this is a lot is made of nothing in my mind, and it just needs to go away.
Here's what amazes me is, so this happened back in, was it September or right around the end of camp? Right. When and he supposedly said, I've been immunized. So you're telling me no one caught it? All of the great reporters, all the great writers in this business, right? That are, you got this NFL network, you got the ESPN, you got all this stuff out there. You're telling me no one caught it until he tested dirty on or positive on a COVID test? How come no one said, well, wait, a question. Is that the same thing as vaccinated? So you are, why not bring it up then? That's what I don't understand.
Well, that's the point. I think that's a good point too. It wasn't an issue then. It shouldn't be now.
Yeah. So another week in the NFL. Mike, let's look forward here to some of the other games coming up. And, it always seems like start with the Rams because they're going to take on San Francisco on a Monday nighter next week. San Francisco beat them twice last year, but as you already alluded to, they're not even close to the same team as they were last couple of years.
No, it'll be hard. This is going to be a real hard game for San Francisco. What they used to beat them, Obviously, they're going to go to school, and they're not dumb. The Rams have changed.
Yeah.
But I don't know if they have to do a whole lot to beat San Francisco, because unless they just shoot themselves in the foot like they did here last week.
Yeah, and that game will be up in San Francisco. Looking at some of the other games, I don't think it's a big game, but the Cowboys are going to want to have to come off the schneid now. They're going to take on the 4-4 Atlanta Falcons, and it'll be in Dallas. So a chance for Dak to redeem himself a little bit, for the whole team to redeem themselves.
Yeah, I think Dak is the issue there. I really do. If he plays really well, then it's not going to be an issue. But I guess Zeke is okay physically. I know he went out in that game. Hopefully he's back.
Hey, Buffalo's going to take on the Jets. Buffalo dropped one to Jacksonville. What happened in that game?
I think that they're really good teams right now, Ronnie. You'll know this as a player too. By mid-season on, the more physical teams pull away from the other teams. If you can't or are reluctant to run the football well, doesn't make it how much, but if the defensively you respect their ability to run the football, it changes your approach. Well, when you go back and look at Buffalo, they just don't run the football. It's just something that they do occasionally. They're not very good at it. They get some yards, but everything is predicated around Josh Allen. That's a dangerous thing to do.
Yeah. You got to be able to run the ball in this league. What else here? Green Bay and Seattle. That will be in Green Bay, and Rodgers, all goes well, he should be back for that one. And you expect him to get back on track just like that, pretty much.
Yeah, and the quarterback, and he's back. Both quarterbacks will be back from being gone. So that's a tough place to play, as you know, up in Seattle. So, but they're such a good team, and it was evident when he left. Defensively, they're really good. He's going to get back in the saddle, and they'll be good.
Yeah, that one will actually be in Green Bay. The Jordan Love kid, how do you think he played down there last week?
Oh, I think he's awful.
Yeah.
He's awful. He looked like Fields did when he first played. So you have to consider that as well. The speed of the game, if you've practiced a lot and then you get in the NFL game, it's times 10. The speed of the game isn't anything close to practice. And when you, like you said, when you stand in the pocket back there and the bombs are going off all around you, it's way different than being the shotgun playing up Pacoima State, just different. Yeah.
And that was a win that I'm sure they thought they could get with the way Kansas City was playing, and it didn't happen. It's funny. I thought that the receivers, and I thought I saw Devontae Adams a couple of times, look like he quit on the route and quit on the play, maybe because Love was supposed to do something he wasn't expecting, or did something he didn't expect. The body language was horrible with the Packer receivers as that game went on.
So Devontae had 2 balls go, streaks or go routes, and the corner was up on him. Well, when that happens, Rodgers will throw a missile at his back, and he'll throw it short, and he'll turn around, pick it, catch it, and that's it. Yeah. Well, he doesn't know how to back shoulder a ball, Jordan Love, and so that's what he's expecting. He just end up throwing it out of bounds. So you get a receiver running a go route, and you throw the ball out of bounds, that receiver's going to have words for you and come back to the huddle.
Yeah. And they were having words. When there was one point they caught on camera where Adams and Cobb were whispering to each other as they were walking off the field. I know what that is. None of that is ever good. They were like, man, look, we're not going to get killed here. I'm not going up for any balls inside, anything high. I'm not getting tore up for this, man.
I think they probably are going to send a limo around for Rodgers, make sure he gets to the stadium.
Yeah, it's funny. No one talked about COVID when he went out to Arizona and pulled off that win with no help. Isn't that amazing? Yeah. Boy, it's all right. And last one, 5-4. This is going to be a good one, I think. 5-4 Browns, 5-4 Patriots in New England.
That's a hard game for the Browns to win up there.
Very hard. Yeah.
Right now, this reminds me of the 0-1 Patriots, where they'd start off like 5-4, and then they just won out the rest of the season. With a rookie quarterback.
Yeah.
We played him in the Super Bowl. So, it'll be hard. It'll be a tough place for the Browns, because you're catching them right now. They're really a good team. Talking about New England. And I think the Browns are too, but I think it's going to be a slugfest up there. I really do.
Yeah, no, they're coming slow, but they are coming, and they're looking solid. So, all right, Mike, that's all we got time for, man. Thanks as always, buddy. Good
All right,
talking
Ryan,
football with
enjoyed
you.
it.
All right, we'll see you next week.